I have the one and only supervillain himself, Akamaru Red.
Hello, matey. How you doing? I came to see, steal, plunge, and conquer.
You came to
Hello,
plunder.
hello, Twitch chat.
I didn't know supervillains were pirates.
Pirates. Hi, matey.
All right. So man, how's your week been? How's things going? How's Shadowverse?
It's been fun. I've been testing out a lot of new decks.
Mhm.
Now that the changes actually came out, I've had some fun playing triple fall from grace. We talked about it last week, so I was like, let's give it a try. Maybe we'll see a lot of windmills, and I had fun playing against non-windmill decks. Neutral blood, Daria, a lot of Daria, and Avon. That was my experience.
Have
What
you?
about you?
I played a bit today. What was I playing today? I played a little bit of windmills today. I played some Daria today, and I was playing some forest today. And I was seeing just like a whole lot of stuff. I was seeing some portals. I was seeing a lot of windmills. I was seeing a lot of dragons.
I was on the other hand of the spectrum, which
Mhm.
is kind of interesting because sometimes I wonder about matchmaking because I'm at the same points you have. I saw you had like 6,000, right? Correct
Yeah,
me if I'm wrong.
I'm at like
Yeah.
as of like an hour ago, I'm at like 7,500. But yeah, I'm
Oh, okay.
about the same.
Yeah. Okay. So you play because yesterday I was watching you play a lot of against different decks, and you had 6,000. I'm also at 6,000, and you see a lot of different decks. That just shows how healthy Shadowverse is as a game. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people playing the game, and you see so many different things at the same matchmaking in theory, right? So it's really interesting. Sometimes I wonder if I'm seeing the same meta we all because I read our forums and people are like, oh, this is super famous. This is super. I saw a lot of neutral blood, and apparently a lot of people didn't. So I find it interesting.
I saw a single neutral blood today, and that was it. So I don't know
Yeah.
where you're getting like the where you're getting the massive influxes of them, but ladder's a weird thing. Sometimes you'll play and you'll queue into like the same deck 7 times in a row, and you'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna counter it. So you'll change your deck and you'll queue into the counter of that deck. You'll queue into the counter of your counter deck like 8 games in a row, and you're like, you know what? I should never have switched. Then you'll switch back to your original deck, and you'll go back to queuing into the counter to that deck. And you're like, what's going on here?
I have an explanation for that. Your brain processes funny patterns. Uh,
Hmm.
so when you see that pattern of I'm getting countered, I change. I'm getting countered. Your brain will remember that, even if you play 1,000 games. Those 5 games where you got countered in a row, you'll remember them, and you
Hmm.
will forget 900 of those games. So
Yeah,
that's
people.
why, like,
Mhm.
RNG, people were like, I saw the craziest RNG thing. It always happens to me. It actually doesn't. It's just that you remember that and you don't remember the rest.
Yeah, humans by default we tend to remember the negative things and not the positive things. So when stuff like that happens, it just stands out in our minds a little bit more.
Hmm.
But so we got the nerfs to talk about. These nerfs just came out. What like I think this morning, right? They just dropped this
Oh
morning.
yeah, the update was this morning. Yeah.
So let's go over those real quick. So the first thing that they changed was Immortal Thane. So Thane, pretty powerful card. Used to be 7 play points. Now he costs 8 play points. Any thoughts on this nerf?
Uh, I don't think it is enough. I don't think it's gonna impact Shadow enough to not be seen or be played for many players. It's a lot of a comfort deck for a lot of players, especially tournament players. I
Hmm.
see Auto Aim in chat. I know he's a big fan of Shadow. I don't think he's gonna stop playing Shadow because of that. I think the most powerful thing Thane has, and they didn't hit that, is that you get a 0 play point, very strong follower, and they didn't change that. So I think Shadow will still be played and will still be a strong deck.
I think I find a few things about this nerf kind of interesting. The first thing that I find interesting is this is so Xr and Thane were both from Tempest of the Gods. So we have two 7 play point cards from Tempest of the Gods in Shadow that both got nerfed. I find that pretty
Yeah.
funny. Um, and I think the fact that Thane got hit from 7 play points to 8 play points, I think that's going to help out the Forest matchup a good amount. I
Oh hell yeah.
Well, one thing I actually want to point out, I know we haven't talked about all the nerfs yet. Might be jumping the gun a little bit. I think every single one of these nerfs that they did just all it did was just make Forest better in every single matchup.
Yeah, it's normal when three classes. Well, we can say three classes because Bahamut is a dragon card, right?
Yeah,
But
basically.
we can talk about that later because Side Games actually mentioned that Bahamut was very strong in a lot of classes, which is kind of funny. But so when three classes, four I guess, Avon was also hit with the Bahamut, but when three classes get hit, it's normal that the other ones just become a little bit stronger, right? Because the other ones got a little bit slowed down, but yeah, that's the thing about Shadow. I think that when I play with it, I don't think the change matters too much. But when I play against it, I definitely feel a lot more comfortable because now I know that at 7 I can actually lose initiative. I can give away tempo to my opponent because the worst thing they can do is play a Nectar, but they're not gonna play a Nectar on an open board, right? But if you give away an open board as Dragon, like for instance, if you Breath of the Salamander and then pass, they can establish a thing. Now they can't, so I feel a lot more comfortable by passing on turn 7 and so on, so on.
Yeah, I think it's really gonna because I know I didn't play too much Shadow, but with all the Shadow I played, I know I played a lot of 7 play point Thanes, and I played them a lot on turn 7. So
Yeah.
I think I feel like out of all the nerfs that they've done, I think this one is going to be the most impactful of all the nerfs. Like as far as this actually feels like a nerf.
It also shows that they want to push Shadow away from the mid range. Shadow has been mid range the most aggressive archetype that they pushed was mid range for a while in the latest expansions. But this expansion and this nurse, they're pushing it away mostly because Shadow feels very weak. From 5 to 7 was very weak. Now it's probably going to be a lot weaker from 5 to 8 possibly because again, if you don't have an established board, you're not going to ector. So you have no play kinda until turn 8. That feels very powerful. So they're pushing that away, and which is weird because I don't know uh, in which category Thane will fit. I don't think you're gonna play Thane on any other class except mid range,
Mm-hmm.
but they seem to be pushing us away from that with the Ector nerfs, with the Catacombs nerfs, with the Thane nerfs. Every single nerf for Shadow was for the mid range. You don't see a nerf on the aggro Shadow. You don't see a nerf on the control Shadow. So it's mostly mid range.
Mm-hmm.
I guess everyone is tired of mid-range Shadow. I'm not, but
It's been
it's
around
just
for
me.
quite a while.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this next. I'm gonna call this one a change, not a nerf. I want to talk about this next change. So, good old Bahamut. Me and you have laughed and we have talked about Bahamut quite a bit on Shadowcast. So, as I'm sure you know, Bahamut used to be a 13/13, and when he entered the battlefield, he had fanfare blow everything up. He would break amulets, he'd break spirits, he would break hearts, he would break followers, just everything. So,
You would break the keyboard of your opponent by
mm,
when they rage quit and they went to Reddit and they're like, Birth Bahamut!
I'm sure multiple phone screens were cracked in the making of Bahamut. so so now Bahamut no longer reads 13/13 destroy all your opponent's hopes and dreams. He now reads 9 mana or he now reads 10 play points 9/9 and he just destroys all followers. So he no longer breaks amulets. So
Uh, that
mhm,
is probably the most interesting change out of all of these nerfs. Most of the other nerfs are just little things, but Bahamut is actually very major. It might actually influence the meta in a very big way because Bahamut was defining the meta, and they mentioned that they changed Bahamut. I don't know if you read the entire nerf change, but I actually like to read that to see the design point of view. And they changed Bahamut because they thought that a lot of strong decks that use amulets question mark I don't see strong amulet decks anymore, but they said that strong amulets decks were not being played because of Bahamut. So they changed that specifically because they want to see new decks, and they hope with these changes we'll see a lot more variety.
so my guess is with if they're trying to see more amulets, like what kind of cards could they expect to try to make more powerful with the change like this? The first thing that comes to mind for me is Roland. Um, but other than that, it's like powerful amulets. There's tilting at the windmills. And then what else? Because like a lot of the amulets in the game get have they have an effect when they break for a lot of them.
Yeah, I think The only meta impacting amulets besides the ones you mentioned is probably Summit Temple. I think they are trying to make Aven a different class. They want to give the Lila effect to they gave it to an amulet. So maybe that amulet was the one that they were specifically talking about. But you're definitely right on the Roland. A lot of people it jumped to a lot of people's perspective when they nerfed Bahamut. Everyone was talking about Roland and how strong Roland could be. We could talk about that a little bit later if we have time. But other than that, maybe our Harvest Festival, I think it's the name.
Hmm.
Venus with the Harvest Festival. It was very sad to play Harvest Festival when they had 10 play points available. Just because Bahamut is very strong for you. You don't have good answers as Forest. And they're also destroying your value engine. So maybe that's one of them. I don't know. Maybe you can now outgrind Dragon as Forest if you have if you equip your deck to it.
Well, now that Bahamut won't break any amulets, and since there's this tilting at the windmills strategy going around, I don't know if you've seen this one too much yet, but
Yes.
it is pretty difficult for Forest to race a tilting at the windmills. That is a very hard card for them to deal with.
Playing Fall from Grace. I
Hmm.
had a lot of fun. I played Aven with 3 Fall from Graces. I made my dragon opponent cry because I not only had Aegis, but I had the only way they could actually win the game with Fall from Grace. So I destroyed their. I changed destroy. I changed their tilting at the windmills into a 1/3 with Rush, and they cried.
That's
They
pretty
emoted.
good.
They
That's pretty
said,
good value.
"Yeah, hear the dragon's roar." Nope.
So I wanna talk a little bit about just like tilting at windmills just in general, just because I feel like the Bahamut change that card is going to get the most love, I guess, from this change. I don't know if you agree with that, but
Oh,
the
definitely. I saw a lot of windmill before the nerfs. I think it was popping up because in the mirror it was a very strong card. It allowed you to not only have the same tools to deal with the other dragon players with Scythers and Saaquials, but you could also play your queens to finish the game a lot faster.
yeah. So this change just I feel like made Queen a lot better. I feel like made tilting a lot better, and it just gave Dragon more ways to get degenerate amounts of storm damage. And I intentionally use the word degenerate there. Um,
It feels like Zell, right? But at least Zell forced you to have uh, an evil point.
mhm.
Queen doesn't. You don't need an evil point. You can spend them on your ILS, and then you can deploy like disgusting amounts of like 20. I got hit by like 20 damage with Israfils and Queens and Azidahakas, and it was not fun. It
Yeah,
was definitely something they need to address. Is that if you want to make a balanced experience, I guess, to your player base, you shouldn't allow ridiculous stuff like that. I feel, especially when you cut the answers to it, right? Because in this change, you just made Bahamut not be able to deal with Windmill. That matchup was frustrating. Even with Bahamut, I had a game where I didn't draw my Bahamuts, and it was the most frustrating game I had to play because I knew I was not gonna race them, and my Bahamuts just didn't like me, I guess. But they changed Bahamut, and now the only effective answers we have is like Fall from Grace, I think, and there's a follower that destroys amulets, but it's very expensive.
yeah, it's Burly Axe Wielder. It's like a 3 play point amulet, and he enhances at 7. And enhancing at 7 is super slow to break an amulet. Because like,
Unless you're specifically killing windmills, which is 7 for 7.
mm-hmm.
But even then, you're not putting a lot of pressure. They can establish another windmill because they're only facing a 3/3, right? Or two
Well,
three.
I think he becomes like a 4/4 when he gets the buff.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so it's just like it's difficult now because if they have the tilting on the field, there's really unless you have a way to remove the tilting, there is very little you can do about it now. you can establish a board and then you just get Bahamutted and then hit in the face for 10 or hit in the face for 9.
Yeah,
You can establish a board and then you get Israfilled and then they heal and wipe your board and hit you in the face for 10. Or yeah,
yeah. It's also
everything just leads to you getting hit in the face for 10.
yeah. It's also very punishing. I guess I didn't have a lot of experience. I didn't experience a lot against that matchup, but I tried a Shadow. I tried to evolve as aggressively as I could, and I think that is the correct way to play it. And they established a windmill, and I still was not able to race them because my Thane was slower. So, and I didn't get my Ectors, but that can happen a lot, right? You don't get Ectors every single game. But I evolved as aggressive as I could. I hit him face a lot when they play windmill, and I put him to 2, and I still wasn't able because, like you mentioned, they would always Israfil kill my board and deal 8, and my Aisha only kills them at 10, and I just spent my evos being aggressive. Also, the other side of the coin is that if you evolve aggressively, they can punish you with attack wheels, like you mentioned. They can still have that stall grind game plan, even if they don't play the windmill. They can still sack wheel for value, and Israfil and Zeus and Bahamut and Queen. So
Yeah, like today I was playing a couple games with tilting, and what was it that had happened? Like I felt a lot of the games that I had won, I felt like I just did not interact with my opponent at all. Like I would just ramp the whole bunch. I maybe like spot removed 1 or 2 creatures, and then from that point, once I established the tilting at the windmills, all I did was Evo face. I had 3 Evos left, and I just kept. I was playing Sahak wheels. I would just clear his board with my Sahak wheel. I'd Evo the Sahak wheel face, and then I would do something else, and I would Evo my Bahamut face, and then I would do something else, and I would Evo something else face until he died. It was like, it was funny on my end. Like I enjoyed like being just playing all these big things, just going face. But like, there's no way my opponent was having fun with that game because there's just nothing he could have done.
especially Bahamut, like it's degenerate. It's frustrating to have your board wipe and take 9 to face. You can't even ward against that, right?
Like
You play wards, they destroy them. There's not a single card that has last wards gain a ward
think
in on the board. So
think about like what's it called? Aldos. What's his name? Imperial Dragoon. Like Imperial Dragoon discards your entire hand to hit face for 8 maximum. So it wipes
yeah,
a board and then hits for 8 maximum. This will wipe the
and
entire board and hit you for 9.
yeah. Think about you since we're talking about it. Uh, think about Elephant. Imagine if Elephant would kill your opponent's board, right? Because Elephant ignores wards, and it's frustrating sometimes to lose to it because you have no counterplay sometimes. But like even if you play wards against Bahamut, it feels like Elephant sometimes. It feels like an elephant that destroys your entire board, and then you get Elephant again, and you get your board destroyed again, and there's not enough Storm. I don't think the correct way to go fight against windmills is to print more Storm, because then the game becomes chaotic and you're not interacting at all. It's just storming face. It just becomes a race, and it doesn't become a card game. It just becomes NASCAR or Formula One, I guess.
What they call it in like Magic is they'll say like it's 2 ships sailing or passing each other in the night, where like they just ignore each other. You just like
Yeah.
just smash each other in the face harder and harder until somebody dies.
Front guard general actually rotated. I actually thought about that one, but it's not here anymore, so you cannot do that one. But it's okay. So the way I see, that's why I mentioned neutral blood. The way I saw people play around those kind of crazy combo decks is actually to be as hyper aggressive as you could. I saw a lot of Darius and neutral bloods.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to actually destroy and punish windmills. Because when you think about it, deploying a 7 play point amulet is very expensive.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly expensive, and it's 7 mana, do literally nothing. What's it called? Canyon of the Dragons, which is another one we didn't even talk about. That just gets a bit better because of the Bahamut change. But
I actually think that one is very strong. Like, you lose a lot of tempo when you play Canyon, and now you recover it by playing Bahamut. You recover all your lost tempo, and you gain value and tempo in 2 plays. I think that is disgusting. I think that is actually the most degenerate play you can currently make, is Canyon into Bahamut.
And what's crazy about that is that if you go Canyon into Bahamut, like before Bahamut used to be a 13-13, right? And so you're actually getting more stats now with your
Yeah,
9-9 Bahamut and a 5-5 Dragon. That's
yeah.
more
Especially
stats
because
than
it comes.
Bahamut used to be, and it's over
Yeah,
2 bodies.
yeah. It comes at the end. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that it comes at the end of your turn. So yeah.
But I feel like we've been talking about this Bahamut change a lot. Let's talk about the last nerf in the set, which is Magic Illusionist.
Wait, was there another nerf? I don't. I
There
don't
was
remember.
Bahamut, there was Immortal Thane, and then there was Magic Illusionist. If you want to call that a nerf.
Oh, you meant. Oh, you mentioned the free 200 vials for Mr. Akamaru. Right? I told you I was gonna be the villain. You mean the free 200 vials for me? Oh, now I can actually dust the card that I play 0 of. I haven't. Okay, disclaimer. I have played a total of 0 Magic Illusionists over my entire Shadowverse career, and I made it to World Grand Prix. So if you wanna, and I'm just kidding. If you wanna be successful, play Magic Illusionist. Play Dirt Rune. Do not be stubborn. I'm just a very stubborn player. I hate the spies. I hate Dirt Rune.
So
It is in my soul as disgusting and filthy.
so from your perspective as somebody who hates Dirt Rune, how do you feel about this Illusionist change?
It's pointless. As a player that only played against Illusionist, I have not noticed the changes at all. I was playing yesterday. I played against like 20 Illusionists. There was one situation only one situation where the change actually mattered. Out of 20 situations, I actually tweeted about it. I don't know if you saw that,
I didn't
but
see that one.
there was only one situation when my Angel of the Word could actually clear because I went first. My opponent was Baka, dumb enough to play Illusionist on 2. I think smart players do not play their Illusionist. So he played a Witch's Cauldron, I think, and then he played Illusionist. Usually people play the Dwarf first, and then they play their Illusionist, or after the Carl,
Hmm.
because that guarantees that it sticks. So in that situation, he played Amulet into Illusionist, and I had a 2-drop, so my Angel of the Ward could actually clear the Illusionist. So that was the only situation that I saw out of 20. So I think I'm not gonna talk anymore about it, but I'm gonna be real quick. I think it didn't matter at all. So go ahead, Mr. Cesaro, enlighten us, because I'm a dumb Dirt Room player. So I'm just an idiot, a C player.
I'm at about the same spot as you. I feel like I I'm actually insulted by this Illusionist change. Like I feel like uh, now everyone, a lot of the people know Illusionist is an incredibly powerful card in Dirt Rune. One of the one of the jokes is like Magic Illusionist just rewards you for playing Shadowverse because you want sigils anyway. So a 2 mana 2/2 that just does stuff is really good, you know. But the change from a 2/2 to a 2/1 on a card whose effect is I can't die doesn't change anything. So there are gonna be times. Obviously, like I'm being a little facetious. It does change stuff. Things like your dragon summoners can now trade into a magic illusionist. Things like
Pure heart singer.
your pure-hearted singers can trade into a magic illusionist. What's it called? Spiderweb imp and the portal spiderweb imp. I forget the name of that one. Those are actually very good now against magic illusionists. They're 1/4 wards. That's very good. But I just don't think that this is even like close to solving the problem that was in Dirt Rune. Like the matchups where Magic Illusionist was really a problem, like for Dragon, for instance. Like Dragon had a lot of trouble dealing with Magic Illusionist. This changes actually nothing because the way you removed your Illusionist was with fire with Blazing Breath and with Breath of the Salamander. So you're still not gonna have that same issue. Mm.
Or actually, Bahamut was the best answer to Magic Illusionist. It's not anymore. It literally deals nothing. It's worse. You're actually popping only one amulet. It's complete garbage to play Bahamut against Dirt Rune. It
Yeah,
was so good before.
like their magic illusionist is gonna be a 2-1, but their Oz Grand Summoning is gonna be just as good as before. Like that's where I'm
I'm
at.
actually very let's now that you mentioned that, let's talk about that real quick. I'm actually very sad they didn't change Oz. Uh, Jay-Z is one of the players that I respect the most.
Hmm.
Him and I in Japan, we had like a 15-minute talk about Oz, and he actually was the one that brought this up to me. He told me that they should change Oz, and I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, that effect is too powerful for the mana cost." And he actually made a very good point. I was only thinking about the effect, but he actually told me, no, make it smaller. Because the problem with Oz is not that you get completely tempoed out of the game. It's just the body is so big when you evolve it. It's a 6/7. It is so hard to deal with. And especially because your board was just eliminated by all the spells that your opponent played. And now you need to evolve something and trade into it that is probably not a good trade for you. So he actually mentioned that. And I'm actually quite sad that they didn't change Oz. That was a punch in the stomach to me. That they would think that Dirt Rune is very powerful, and it is. It has 54% win rate. Actually, all the three classes that got nerfed had 50% win rate. I
Hmm.
actually want to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about all the nerfs. But so it was very strong, but they thought that the reason why the deck was very strong is because Magic Illusionist had 2 health instead of 1 health. That is, to me, I respect side games a lot. I think they're doing a lot of positive changes. I think that the Grimnir change was the best change they ever did into the freaking game by far. I think the Illusionist change, however, is something that makes me quite sad, especially because it comes after 3 months of Illusionist. We had 3 months of Dirt Rune. We see Dragon and Shadow getting butchered. We saw Sybil getting butchered. We see Ouroboros getting butchered. We see Thane, Ektar getting changed,
Rest in
and
peace, Lightning Blast 2017.
we see Lightning Blast getting changed, and we still see Oz being annoying in Neutral Rune, in Dirt Rune, in Daria. God freaking damn it, Rune Daria is Oz is so annoying in Daria Rune. In freaking D shift, we actually saw someone playing Oz with D shift, but it's just I'm just sad they didn't change that card. They thought Illusionist was the problem, which it is in fact, but at least make it a 1/2, because the problem that I have against Illusionist is that it deals 6 or 8 damage to my face before I can actually fight back against that deck. So
I
it's
feel
quite frustrating.
the thing is, I feel like if Illusionist was a 1-2, the card is actually just garbage, and I don't think they wanted to kill that card. The way that I had thought, like the cleaner way to do the change, which some people that I've talked to about it had said they didn't like the idea, was just what if Illusionist has the Snow White effect, where when Snow White dies, she comes back and loses her resummon ability. So if
The
Magic,
last words. Yeah.
yeah, she loses the last words. If Magic Illusionist lost his last words after he died and came back, I feel like that'd be a good change, because your two
I think
two,
it's balanced.
like
Yeah.
that way it's still, if you need to remove it, you need to like expend a Sylvan Justice and a Insect Lord, or you need to expend 2 attacks, or you need to expend 2 of something, but you
Yeah.
can at least remove it if you actually wanted to, whereas they can just,
It,
instead of them hiding behind 4 sigils.
Actually, you want to balance. If you think that change is too harsh, just make it evolve. I mean, evolving to when you kill it, it evolves into a 2/2 instead. So you at least get piercing rune value. If you think it is harsh, the change to, oh no, I don't want it to lose the last words. You could make it uh, evolve into a 2/2 when it gets killed. That changes at least the piercing rune interaction. I guess you couldn't evolve it to go face for more damage, but that's just ridiculous. To keep for no zero value, you expend no cards at all, especially with the addition of Carl. Cards like Carl is just insane with the illusionist, and you basically not playing cards. You're not spending mana, play points. You're not spending anything at all, and you're just getting a free 2 play point every single turn. Just think about Carrot. Imagine if Carrot would just keep coming back at the end of the turn. Just keep coming back, keep coming back. Do you think Carrot would be balanced that way? Hell no. So I think your change is actually one of the smart changes, because when you think about it, you're changing you're expending a sigil for a 1 attack when you compare it to Snow White, right? Because Snow White is a 1/2 and then it's a 2/2. Illusionist would be a 2/2 into a 2/2. You're expending a sigil for that. So I think it's a balanced way to look at it.
I just the way I see it now, like I see this specific change mattering so little, and then the only times it's gonna matter is when you're getting absolutely smashed by Wood of Brambles.
Yeah. But you used to be smashed by Water Brambles before, even without the change. So
Yeah, like
that's just a bad match.
it,
Yeah.
it made the Dirt Rune Forest matchup, which I think was already better for the Elephant player. It just made it better.
Yeah.
That's all that this did. Like I think these nerfs, these changes that they did this month, I think they just made Forest that much better. I don't know if I'm ready to say I think Forest is going to be the strongest thing because now that this Bahamut change, I think things might just actually get shaken up quite a bit. But
Yeah. The windmill is very scary for Forest,
hmm
right? The
yeah,
windmill, because you can get so Forest has a lot of healing, but you can actually take 20 damage phase because Queen is the card.
yeah. Now they can go if they have a tilting on the field, they can go Queen, which is a 7/7 storm, into Bahamut to wipe the board. So 7 plus 9 is what is that? I can do math. That's 8.
16,
16, and then
and then
it's
Dahaka just
yeah,
finishes the game.
yeah.
Or Scyther Evo.
Or even just like before you even
Yeah,
have a
cheat
dragon
code.
card, before you even have a dragon card, you can just go Queen of the Dread Sea, evolve it, and then Ariat it. That's 18 right there before anything else. That's a lot of
Yeah.
damage.
That's actually lethal if you have Tilton, because it's 18 and Ariat itself is a neutral, so it's +4.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got lethal out of 2 cards. You have 2 card lethal. So think about it. When you have Elephant combo, which is probably the most damage you can do, you need
A full grip.
to
You
kill
need a
your
whole hand.
yeah, you need to kill your wolf. You need to have 2 elephants or maybe jungle warden, but you need a full hand. Like this card, you need tilting on a previous turn, right? So it's kind of like balances with the wolf because you also play the wolf on a previous turn, but you don't need to suicide your tilting, right? And you don't need a full hand. You only need 2 cards in your hand, and
You
and you kill every your opponent's board with Bahamut's. And you stall so much. Like Forest doesn't stall as much as the Windmill Dragon. So if you're looking into NG or any other tournament and you believe that combo decks will be a thing, Windmill is probably your kind of deck because Windmill will most likely be the winning deck out of any combo deck. Because
I
you also have cards like Draconic Fervor, right, which are very strong.
yeah, and then now you can do stuff like you can go queen into like whatever, and you can fervor, redraw your hand, and play a new queen the next turn. I've seen people do stuff like that. It's stupid. like,
Oh yeah, you can remember when Chronos didn't have an impact. Now you can windmill into Chronos, which is fun. You can windmill into Chronos and then trade your Chronos, and then you can do like Queen. You can like Queen Zeus and Ouroboros, and you're like, oh shit, I just lost my entire hand. But your Ouroboros will give you 8 cards by playing your Chronos, which is fun, and you will probably draw into other Queens, which is also fun. You can do like crazy things
I'm
because
just
now your Chronos is the 4/8 that can actually trade. So.
I'm just nervous for what Dragon may or may not become within the next couple weeks. But they did mention that I think you said February 15th, right? We may or may
Mm-hmm.
not be seeing more changes around February 15th. So maybe that indicates that Cygames thinks, okay, we did a couple changes. This might not be enough. Um, and we may have to change some more things down the line. Which I'm not opposed to that. I think it's a little weird that they like. I understand why they didn't nerf anything last month because we had the rotation coming in, so a lot of things are going to change. So I get that, but it seems a little strange to me to skip a month of nerfs and then to have 2 nerfs within the same month right after that. But I do
Yeah,
understand why.
yeah. Twitch chat. You may or may not know, but the most interesting thing to me out of the nerf text that they posted, the public announcement, was that the next change is actually going to happen in February the 15th. So that's in like 20 days or 20-ish days, which is interesting. It makes me think about do they think the changes are not enough? Are they concerned about the game? Do they think they need to rechange things. Also, another aspect is that they mentioned that they made these changes because of future events and tournaments. This is the first time they ever announced that they were making changes specifically for events and tournaments. Before, they would make changes based on ladder stats. They still did that, but the focus was always the ladder stats. They always wanted to make the game a 50% win rate for every class across the field. They wanted to have players play a wide variety of decks, and they still have that purpose. But they specifically mentioned that these changes were because of events and tournaments. Also, quite interesting as well is that after the changes in February the 15th, the next changes will be on 30th of March, I believe. We will have like about 2 months without changes. That is, I don't know what they were thinking about. I think that they're very concerned about the game. As I mentioned before, 54% of win rate for three classes, the three most played classes at 54% win rate. I think they are very concerned about the health of the game.
So if you were to put a couple cards that you think may be on the chopping block on February 15th, maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit talking about this, but if you were to do that, what would you put first? Like top 2 or top 3 cards that come to mind?
Oz and Queen.
Those are the exact same 2 on my mind.
Those cards have been on our minds for a lot. I think that's why we had the same answer.
Yeah, I think so.
We shouldn't have the same opinion. Come on, man. This is not fun.
You're right. I think they're gonna nerf Ultimate Carrot.
I think they will nerf Roland because Roland will be the most suppressive thing in this meta.
If Roland becomes the most oppressive thing in the meta, I don't want to go on tangent on this conversation yet. We can save it for later. But if Roland would become the most oppressive thing in the meta, I want to know what Nilpotent Entity becomes. Because I think Nilpotent Entity is stronger than Roland. But we can talk about that if we have time later on. So we talked about the nerfs and or changes. So in Unlimited, 2 cards got restricted. And I actually find the cards that got restricted hilarious. So the first one that got restricted to 1 is Arya Guiding Fairy. That's her name, right? The 4-mana 3/3 that adds a Fairy Wisp to your hand on Fanfare and adds a Fairy Wisp on hand on Evolve. She got restricted to 1. Now, I find this change hilarious because I read that card, and when I read that card when it got first announced, I was thinking to myself, wow, imagine if this was a thing when Roach was in the format. And lo and behold, Roach is still in that format, and Cygames realized, oh man, we messed up.
I saw Roach had a 54%. Actually, Roach had 50. Unlimited is just bonkers. Roach had 54% win rate. I do not remember a time where Roach had 54% win rate at all. I'm actually sad I didn't play Unlimited. Aggro Blood apparently has 57 something percent win rate going first. So it's like Unlimited is probably crazy. Like, how is Roach having 50% win rate when Aggro Blood is the most played deck in that format? Is something that I'm actually astonished. Roach is able to beat Aggro Blood before they actually establish Karabos in some games. So I'm like, what is going on? What is happening in Unlimited? I haven't played a lot of Unlimited. I don't know if you have, but so the 3 most played decks are Forest, Aggro Blood, and Bench. Sorry about interrupting. It's just for some context.
Yeah, if the fact that the aggressive blood decks were the most popular decks in the format and control and OTK Forest can still reign on top, that can only speak, like, it can only scream how powerful Arya was in that deck. To be able to, because on the play you can now get a 0 cost on turn 4. You were never able to do that before.
And you can stack them. Well, not anymore, but that's why they actually restricted it, because you can chain. You can play. You don't need your Finas anymore. You can play Arya from 4 to 6 and win on 7 quite easily by evolving your 2 Aryas, and then you just wisp, Roach. Guidance, Roach.
And
Win.
the fact that Wisp would banish itself, you can now play two of them in the same turn.
Exactly.
Make your
That,
damage on the same turn even higher. Like it had to
that
have
is
been nuts.
why I just said play 5 Wisps. I'm not a fool. I'm not a fool. I know my mechanic, even though I haven't played Arya. I know my mechanics. But that's how much damage is that actually? So let's imagine on 4 you play Arya on the play, on 5 Arya Evo, on 6 Arya Evo,
Oh my
and then
god!
you go like
So that's 5.
Wisp, 5 Wisps, and then Roach for 6, bounce Roach, right? And then Roach.
But
So
wait,
that is
wait.
6, 8, 9. That I believe that's lethal. Yeah, easy.
I think you could even get more because if you bounce one of the wisps and replay it,
Oh,
and then it exiles
oh,
itself.
you can do that. Yeah, but I don't think so because we are at 7 mana and we need all the mana to bounce a Roach and play Roach. I think that's the most damage you can do,
All I know
unless you
is
have only one Roach.
I just
Because
know
bouncing Roach is 5, and then you play another one for 7. I think that's the most you can do, but I'm not sure.
all I know is Arya had to have been giving Forrest some ungodly amounts of damage.
They play card boss and they're literally dead.
So-
That's the game.
Mm-hmm. So that was the one change. The Arya change was one, and now the other card that got restricted is Blood Wolf, and I'm actually a little sad about this one.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. The face pupper has been put down. I miss face pupper already. What I loved so much about that card was, and I can sort of get why it got nerfed because it was a quite powerful card. It did so much for what Vengeance Blood wanted. It brought them closer to Vengeance. It was storm damage. It got pulled off with Air Jammer. It was really friggin' strong, and I guess I get why it got changed, but to my knowledge, the reason that Aggro Blood was so much more powerful than it used to be is because they, not on top of having Blood Wolf, they also got Savage Wolf. And it kind of bothers me that Blood Wolf got gutted and not Savage Wolf. Now, I understand Blood Wolf is the stronger card out of the two of them, but Blood Wolf did so much for Vengeance Blood, and Savage Wolf really doesn't do much. It's just a novice trooper. It's like a very lackluster card. And
It's also sorry, also a more boring card.
Mhm.
I don't know if you feel like that. Like Blood Wolf requires skill to play. Savage Wolf is just like, oh, I play and go face or trade or yeah.
Like some Blood Wolf would have you make decisions. Sometimes you had to hold on to your Blood Wolf for later to use it as a vengeance activator. You had to be smart about it to some extent. Now, obviously, there would be times where you would play Air Jammer and you would just high roll and you'd hear like ding 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 and you'd get 2 wolves off of it and you'd evolve one and just go face for 6. Like I get that. That might have been a bit problematic, but I just I feel as though Blood Wolf died for Savage Wolf's sins.
I agree because we played on a meta where Blood Wolf existed, right, and it wasn't a problem.
Mhm.
So you are absolutely right. We had this exact meta. The unlimited meta was the established meta in Starforge Legends. Sorry, we had Starforge Legends. We had Aggro Blood. We had Caraboss Blood. We had Vengeance Blood, and we never had 57% win rate. Yeah, we had like 52 or 51, but never 57% win rate. And now we see it, but just because it's just faster, it has more cards, it has more consistency, has more aggro damage. The back then the 3-drop slot was Vite. Vite is not as an aggressive card. He's not as aggressive as Savage Wolf. It's just you can evolve Savage Wolf. You have basically 6 storm cards now that cost less than 4. Dark General requires you to be in Vengeance. Savage Wolf doesn't. Emeralda the same. So I'm just sad, like you mentioned, they got at Vengeance instead of aggro. Because if they wanted to change aggro, they were not gonna change Kara Boss because they just changed her. But I agree with you. I think maybe they didn't change it because it's the new card. They don't want to change the new card. But
I think that's
I,
why.
I'm just sad. Yeah, I'm just sad that Blood Wolf was hit.
I just want to say to like be careful when it comes to printing these 3 mana 2/2 storms. Like there was a period of time where Aggro Sword was like super powerful, and that's because it had 2 copies of Novice Trooper and Juliet, and it also had roundtables. Like it was
And
all these cheap storm units that starts
And
pushing these
you
aggro decks over the top.
and you're forgetting that Perseus actually opened up the two play point Blood Wolf for Sword. Don't forget about that.
Hmm.
Sword actually had the Blood Wolf for 2 if you had Perseus into Centaur Vanguard. So you're right.
It's cheap storm damage that what puts these decks over the top. Is what I think.
Yeah, especially in Shadowverse,
Yep.
because the evolved mechanic just makes those small storm followers very strong.
Absolutely.
And
So,
Ephemera.
yeah, and Ephemera. I don't miss that one. So, we were talking a little bit about I forgot what the segue was where we were talking about nilpotent entity for just a moment.
The changes in 15th February, we will see Roland and Nilpotent being changed, and Noise, because they're the most broken thing you can actually see. They counter Windmill completely. Not really.
Yeah. So me and Ak are not like usual. We're actually on different sides of the table on this topic. Uh,
What?
so unlike Akka, I have been messing around with noise. I think I mentioned this last week. I've been playing with the card, and I think to good success. Um, and I think that these effects that work on your opponent's turn, like noise does, like nilpotent entity does, like wandering bard
Oh,
Elta. Yeah.
Mask of the Black Death.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, the chat posted that.
Like I think these effects in a world where people have these massive storm damage finishes or these massive uninteractive Aegis finishes, these massive King Elephant finishes, I think effects like Nilpotent Entity and like Mask of the Black Death and Noise, I think they just get better because it's the only way you can stop these massive hits come in. And what I find so crazy about Nilpotent Entity is not only it has the noise effect for one turn, it has it for two. And if you have an artifact to discard to it, it has that effect for 4 turns. And then on top of it, it's half the mana cost of noise. Now, granted, it's not a 2/2 body like noises. It actually just doesn't affect the board. So it can get worse than noises. It can get much less value. But I think just that style effect gets so much stronger. And on top of it, with this new Bahamut change, it's very difficult to remove a nilpotent entity from the board. And
I
that's
on
mhm.
I on the other hand, will touch on that matter about Bahamut as well. I on the other hand believe that in games like Shadowverse, where you fight a lot for the board position, it's a very board centric game in the sense that your win conditions always come from the board. So I believe that cards like that don't have an impact on the board will not help you establish a win con, will not advance your win condition, and you will still lose the game by decks that focus more on board control because they will have their small followers hitting your face for almost the same value, and the finishers, we have finishers like Albert and Aisha, will still do a lot of damage. You're only reducing 2 damage from Aisha, 4 if you count the 10, and 4 against Albert if you count the Evo. It's even more, but you're still taking that damage and you're not removing the threat. So not only you're spending play points in those cards, you're also spending cards in those cards. You're not actually stopping the threats of your opponent. You're just stalling the damage. Now, I did mention in our previous conversation that Nawiz is a strong card because it is in a class where you have Aegis. Aegis is this immovable wall that will actually help you win the game. And when you establish Aegis and you back it up with Nawiz, it is very strong. But cards like Mask of the Black Death, you don't have an immovable wall that will eventually win you the game and that can outrace your opponent. I believe that in classes like that, those effects are not as strong. Also, the second reason is that once those effects get strong, and I'm not saying they will be or that they are, but as soon as they get strong, they will easily rotate out of the meta just because it's quite easy to counter those effects.
Mhm.
You just play lower curves, smaller bodies, you just flood the board with Daria decks, with neutral decks, with aggressive decks, mostly goblin decks. They will pace you and your effects that stall damage. So that is basically my. Oh, and now that we mentioned Bahamut, I believe that Summit Temple, on the other hand, is a very strong card currently because, uh, um, contrary to Nilpotent, it's actually a proactive card.
Hmm.
It gives you a lot of board control tools, and it's quite hard to remove. So, on the other hand, I believe that Summit Temple is the way I would like. I'm not saying you should play. You play whatever you want to play. Twitch chat. Do not listen to pro players just because they say this is bad. Just ignore them. Play what you want to play. See what is strong for you. But would like to play a game involving cards like Summit Temple instead of Nilpotent.
But when you do have your Summit Temple, my Nilpotent can negate a lot of the damage of your 7/7 Storm.
Yes, but you're not killing the 7/7 Storm.
I'm not. But the thing is, so like, here's how I imagine it working: is like, so I have, whether I already had it on the field or not, really don't think it matters. But let's say I didn't have acceleration on the field, right? So I already have this. Maybe this isn't like that likely to happen as often as I want it to happen this way. But let's say I have my Deus Ex Machina online already, right? So I now play my acceleration. On 10 mana, I play acceleration. I'm down to 9. I play an artifact, a 1 mana artifact. I'm back to 10 mana. I can play the Nilpotent on that turn. I go back down to 9. I play another artifact. I'm back at 10. I now have a Nilpotent on the field. I can trade in both my artifacts and I can Saphira in the same turn. And the Saphira doesn't need to kill my opponent because if I'm sitting behind a Nilpotent, the idea is I can survive until the next turn, and I can kill with Saphira again the next turn. Maybe I'm thinking like too much. The stars need to align for this to happen, but just this is in how I feel like it may play out if that's if the deck actually does work.
Yeah, the other thing though is that when you think about it, you're not reducing that much damage because at that point in the game, when you want to play Nilpotent at the end of the game because you don't want to play it on curve, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
At that game, at that stage of the game, I guess we can say that you're not at 20 HP. So when you do the math, you're taking damage in threes. So you will die to, let's say, 4 attacks, right? 4 attacks of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my concern, is that you're not reducing that much damage. I would play a card, I told you this before, I would play a card that would make me immune. I
Mm-hmm.
would even play 10 play points for that. I would pay 10 play points for that effect. But the thing is that we're not getting immune. We're only taking 3 damage. There's a card in Avon that I believe it's useless and it's not being played. It's Nagisa. I believe it's the name. It's Nagisa.
I'm not sure which
It's a
card that is.
3/2 ward, or Naegis, or I don't know. It's a 3 play point, 3/2 ward. You cannot. Your leader cannot take more than 3 damage. I don't remember the name.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but
I don't think she has ward. I know the one you're talking about though. Um,
oh, I thought she had ward. Sorry,
I,
but
I
your leader doesn't take as much damage. I believe it's the same as Noise.
no,
As long as she stays on the field,
that
you
card
don't
is
take.
that card is different from Noise. That one that you're talking about, its effect is I think it's a 3 mana 3/2, a 3 play point 3/2, and then
Yeah, it's a 3/2.
whatever damage your hero would take, subtract 3 from it. So
Oh, okay.
Noise caps damage at 3. Agena, thank you Chrono in chat. Agena
Agena,
has,
thank you.
yeah, she just takes the damage that you take and then subtracts 3. So if you're taking 3, if you were to be taking 3 to the head, she'll
Oh,
subtract
okay.
it to 0. Whereas with Noise, if you're taking 3, you're taking 3.
I got it. Yeah, so an effect like that is something I don't value too much because you're not removing the damage. Okay, so it's even probably worse than Noise because
Yeah,
if you take 7, you're taking 4, right? So yeah.
Agena's pretty
So
bad.
yeah, so effects like that, you're still taking. That's my main concern. Why I don't like the card. I'm spending resources. I'm spending play points, and I'm spending cards, physical cards, especially if you discard the artifact. Buried or not, it's not a may. It is you're forced to discard an artifact if you have it.
Hmm.
So you're spending 2 cards for that effect, and you're still taking damage. That is my main concern.
You're not wrong is the thing. It's like, and the thing is, a card like Nilpotent like literally does nothing. It has no effect. Like the closest thing I could think of like from another card game to compare it to is like if you look at Magic, Fog is but it's not Fog though is the thing. Fog would negate all
I would
damage for
play.
the whole turn.
Exactly. I would play Fog. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I would play Fog. Yeah.
Yeah, Fog is quite strong. Would be quite strong in Shadowverse, but the thing is though, what other there's it's pretty close though. It's obviously not perfect. Taking 3 damage is much more than taking 0 damage. But when you're able to just for so cheaply for one play point affect the board and basically just neuter massive units for multiple turns on end, there's not really much else for such a cheap cost in the game that does that.
Yeah.
Like
The
you
problem
can play
is
on
that
turn 10. Actually, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you can go on turn 10. You
no,
could play Israfil, Nilpotent. That's pretty strong.
no. The problem is when you play that card, you have to ask yourself the question:
Hmm.
am I going to be able to win the game in 3 turns with my combo? You mentioned cards like Saphira. You mentioned cards like Elephant. If you have that effect, you have to ask the question: can I finish the game? Because I will lose board control, or do I have tools to stall the game long enough so I can kill all the resources of my opponent? I can wipe the board, constantly wipe the board. Do I have effects like Themis Decrees? Do I have effects like Bahamut? Do I have effects like that that will allow me to stall the game long enough so that then I could establish threats like Saphira or Aegis and then win the game?
And yeah, that I haven't tested the deck. I wouldn't be able to tell you, to be completely honest.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. I just I'm so intrigued by all of these cards that actually have an effect on your opponent's turn. Is all I can really say.
I'd like to see more of those effects. I'd like to see effects that Galretto, you mentioned that.
Uh,
It's a very interesting effect because you cannot value the strength of the card because your opponent will not play removal spells because they cannot. So you don't know if you're actually affecting them or not. I like that effect. I was also playing Galretto. I
mhm.
played on an NG. Unfortunately, the deck was banned that week, but I was playing an NG with Galrettos in my Vengeance Blood because it messes up with Dragon when you pull it out of Airjammer. It's quite annoying to Breath of the Salamander on that turn. It's quite funny.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was playing a couple days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. I was playing like 2 Galrettos in my Vengeance Blood as well. And you like you were saying, you can't tell if it's working because
Yeah,
because they would just if your opponent makes what looks like a clunky turn, all you can do is just think, I think it worked, but I don't know. But the other night, all I was doing was I was just tempo evolving Galrettos like a monkey the whole night long, and it and it would work, man.
yeah.
It boggled my mind how often I would assume it worked. I don't know.
That is that is when scrims come to play, and you actually that this is why a quick segue. This is why it's quite good for you to find a group of friends to play the game to actually talk about the game. And most of my games against Kishi or M Lakewitz, a lot or Pancake or a lot of players in
Hmm.
HSK, they will ask me, is this more awkward for you or is this more awkward for you? I lost the game against Kishi because I was literally telling him, it was like, do I play Actor here and go face or do I play Thane? And I was like, if you play Thane, it will be boop, annoying. And he played Thane and he actually won that game. And what we did there was we learned how to play in that specific matchup. And you get a lot of valuable information because you have access to both hands and you know what's really awkward, and you take that experience and you actually use it in your games and you'll be like, oh, I remember this game, this was very frustrating to deal with, so let's do this, and you win more games because so get your scrims. And So Galreto, we will know the value
Hmm.
once we play Galreto, and our opponent tells you, "God damn, that's really frustrating to deal."
It's just a cool card. Like it's once again one of the few cards in the game that like has an effect where it feels like you're interacting with your opponent on their turn.
That is why you also see in tournament plays. Sometimes I read the chats, and a lot of people question tempo evos, but you will see more tempo evolves in tournament play because there will be players that are used to scrims and they know that it's really awkward for the opponent to deal with the tempo evolve. Even if they have the Scyther or the specific answer, you know that most like 80% of the turns, right? It's very strong to tempo evolve in certain matchups.
Yeah, and in tournament formats, they're usually not blind. Like you usually know what your opponent's deck list is, and once you know what your opponent's deck list is, it gets much safer to tempo evo because you know what they can and cannot do. But as far as the cast goes, I think we've hit a lot of the notes you wanted to hit today. Anything else you want to talk about? Any shout outs or anything?
Yeah, just tuning to NG. It's getting quite exciting. We're hitting the post nerf meta. It's gonna be very cool to see what the tournament players do and what they build. We saw a lot of variety. We saw Ginger, we saw Daria, we saw Avon, we saw Rune, Forest. It was quite fun to see. Fortunately, we didn't have the best results. Only Pancake carried our flag,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be interesting to see the new format and the new meta.
I I thought the night before going into NGE because I had played my lineup in Monkey of the Week and I had done pretty well in Monkey of the Week and I was like, oh yeah, my lineup's gonna do nice and well. I got smashed round 1 and 2. I was like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes it just surprises you. My run was also not very strong because I got complacent. I didn't do the math in my forest games, and the only game I did my math, I actually won that game because I set it up. And
mm-hmm,
but then I just got lazy. I played into dirt room as forest, and I got lazy. I played my wolf to set up my lethal, but I forgot that chain of lightning could
mm-hmm.
actually happen, and he killed me because he chain of lightning twice, and I felt really
Did
dumb
did you have
that
like
I
an Elf
just
Queen in your hand that you could have just healed for like a million?
yes, I had Aaron and Elf Queen. Yeah, I wanted to
You
end the
wanted to.
game,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, finish the game fast, and because I was very confident in that matchup, and I just yeah, I didn't think about it thoroughly.
It happens to the
Thoroughly.
best of us, man.
Yeah, they also had an Evo, and when I lost that game, it was very unfortunate. And my Forest didn't do as well as I thought it did, because Dragon and Avon are very strong, very hard to deal with as Forest.
I was surprised by by how my Haven performed because going into the tournament, I felt like the Haven was one of the strongest decks in my lineup, and I felt like it had a very good matchup against Dragon. And in like every single round I played in NG, my opponents just had like if it wasn't Queen on like my turn 7, it was like something else. So it was like this sucks.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Canyon into Israfil is so hard to deal with. It is. It is. You like Tribunal feels bad. It's only killing like a body, right?
Hmm. It's killing one
And
dragon, and they're getting two more later on.
yeah, and when you're playing Tribunal, you're probably not doing anything else because it's like their turns. It's like you have like 6 or 7 play points when they play Canyon into Israfil because they always ramp at least once.
Hmm.
So it's hard to deal with that matchup. That's why I didn't bring Avon. I was finding a lot of success when I started banning Avens, but then my forest lost to dragons. And yeah, yeah,
I think this week I might try just like banning the dragons, just because I don't want to have to deal with the high
yeah.
rolls that they can do. Like
And the
you
windmills.
and I feel like this is a lesson I've learned a few times before, but I feel like I learned it again this week. Is just like you can feel as confident as you want in dragon. Sometimes you're just gonna lose to their ramp into big threats.
Yeah, I lost to Ginger Rune. I
Hmm.
hate Rune as a class because every deck feels like high roll. And
Hmm.
I was playing before. I was like, my shadow beat it so easily. I'm like, oh, this game is over. I'm just gonna 2-0 the Ginger Rune. It was actually Warfuck. He actually made it quite far. He made it into the stream because he beat me on the winners bracket. But the Ginger Rune, he went first, and then he had like 4 cards in hand. I think 4 or 5 cards in hand. And on his turn 9, actually I had Bahamut in hand, but he went first. On his turn 9, he played Ginger, Zeus, Isra. On his turn 9, so he had 2 Isras and 2 Zeuses, and I was forced on turn 9. I can do, actually no, it was, sorry, Bahamut, Isra, Zeus. That was his turn, and I'm like, wait, he just had 4 cards. And then later on the stream, I saw him, and he actually didn't have the hand, and he fell face into the ground, and I just felt like, dude, Rune feels like such a high roll class because he needed those 4 cards, and I actually stalled the turn because I Lily the Bahamut, and he did a lot of damage to my face, but I actually survived. And then I had a Bahamut, but he had the healthy Evo on the next turn, and I was like, God damn it!
Now imagine if you had a nilpotent entity.
I think I still lost because I was very low on health.
Yeah, even against that kind of board, like nilpotent entity is not going to do anything for you. It'll stall a turn, and then you'll die to the Zeuses.
And Ginger, yeah, I took 15 damage that turn. He sent me like to 2.
Yeah, like Rune just feels like the kind of class that, like, I feel like it needs to hit its legendary draws way more than a lot of the other decks do. Like, Forest can survive if it doesn't draw its Insect Lord. Dragon can survive sometimes if it doesn't draw its Bahamut. It cares more about its Sybil than its Bahamut, but like it cares about both of them. Like, but you don't need them. Like, you can draw different ones. I was playing a good amount. I was playing a good amount of Daria, and if you don't draw Daria by like turn 7, and you didn't just get like a nuts hand where you just vomited your hand on the board, it feels pathetic. Your deck actually just feels like it's not a deck. You feel like you're playing just underpowered stuff.
If you don't have Oz on Dirt, you're literally playing a worse version of every single deck in the game. Like, Oz makes that deck. That's why it's frustrating to me that they didn't actually change the other.
It's very, yeah, like just reliant on the legendaries, I feel like, is the best way I could put it. Like with what was it called? We were just talking about it. Ginger, with Word Wielder Ginger. Like, that deck is 100% reliant on drawing its Ginger. If it doesn't draw its Ginger, you're just playing a whole bunch of really expensive cards. You're playing a bad version of Ramp Dragon. That's all that it is.
Yeah, and you also need follow-up. If you have the Ginger and you don't have the rest, it's like, right? If you have like Saaquil, because that runs 3 Saaquil. If you have like Saaquils and Ginger, you just have a lot of 4 attack followers that are very expensive.
Carepack just saying Oz doesn't make the deck at all. She just gives it insane gas. And like,
well,
that's the thing, is like, it's the gas that Oz gives. And not only she gives gas, she gives crazy tempo plays too.
It is the only, I only lost to 2 cards out of that deck. Illusionist and Oz. That is literally the only 2 cards I lose to.
And Grand Summoning and Mutagenic Bolt. You can't.
No, I don't. No, I beat those cards. If they don't have Oz, I beat those cards.
You can beat a Mutagenic Bolt usually, but sometimes it's pretty backbreaking.
No, even a Shadow, if they don't have the Oz into Muta, because if they Muta you, they're spending 6 play points. They're not playing anything, and the rats will deal more damage to them than to you. Playing as Shadow, I can win that matchup if they play Mutable. Like, if I play a Thane, I feel very comfortable in that matchup as long as I don't die with the Mutable. If I don't die with the Mutable after playing Thane, I know I can win. Unless they play Oz Muta, because if they Muta, because they will always Muta my Thane board, but I can actually win that race with Ektar or Aisha or anything else. But it's just Oz into spells is quite annoying. I either take like 10,000 damage with Illusionist, or it's the Oz tempo play.
Those are the hardest draws to deal with, and like, yeah, I agree. Like, if they don't have those, there's a lot of things you can do to fight their board. Like, if they just draw Carls, you can just kill their Carls. Carl's not a real card.
If you don't take my word for it, know that I played that matchup 10 times in World Grand Prix. Every one of my opponents had Dirt Rune, and there were no bans, so I had to play against that every single round. No exception. Even in the only exception was Kocha and Jay-Z. all the other rounds there was the dirt room, except Tyson, I believe. Yeah, Tyson. Yeah, I think Tyson was playing the ship, but everyone else was like dirt room, dirt room, dirt room, dirt room. And I played Vengeance Blood into that matchup a lot, and I was winning that matchup unless they had a very powerful Oz, but they never high rolled with their Oz, so I was winning those matchups. The first rounds they high rolled with Oz, and I could not beat that. So yeah, Oz into Twin Guardians, stuff like that.
Yeah, Oz. It's just like the Oz into spells, like into big spells. Oz into like Piercing Rune, that's reasonable. You can handle that. It's once it gets like Oz into Piercing Rune, and Mutagenic Bolt, or like Oz into Piercing Rune, Grand
It's
Summoning. It's just, it gets
yeah,
silly.
yeah. It's the bot. The body is so big, and if you get like Twin Guardians or just Mutable, because if you Mutable your opponent's board, the 4/5 is so big and hard to deal.
Well, we ended up going a little bit longer talking about our dislike for Dirt Rune. Um, I'm excited to see to see how things are gonna shake up in the next week, to see what these changes are gonna end up bringing to NGE. I'm a little concerned that tilting might just be might be dominant. I'm hoping it's not. I think it's possible that it won't be, but I guess we'll have to see what happens.
I think maybe Canyon of the Dragons can compete against Windmill, just because the 5/5s are force your opponent to not storm face with Windmill, right? They actually need to clear the 5/5s. Otherwise, you can play Bahamut and then just do a lot of damage with your 5/5s.
Yeah, Oz double chain lightning is the backbreaker, says Care Package. Yeah, it's also a silly one. Just too much reach. All right. Well, I think we've talked about all the stuff we need to hit today, right? All right.
Shout outs to the live event, right?
Oh,
The
yeah. Shout outs to the
your event.
Yeah.
You
So
fool.
HSK is going to be hosting an event in New York City if anyone is around. This is the second one we're doing. The first one we did, it could have been more popular, but it was nice. It was fun. There were lots of cool people there. I ended up meeting Aya. I ended up meeting Wonder Melodies. I met some. Who else did I meet? I met Vanquish. I met a lot of people. It was neat. I met Noah from Anasurge. I was very surprised that he came to that. And I know there are some players who have already expressed interest in wanting to go. So if you guys are in the New York area, definitely come to that. It's gonna be February 18th, at a place called Nebulous Gaming. It's gonna be starting at around 6 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Do we have do we have confirmation of players that will be there? I think Kishi was saying that he was going to it.
I'm gonna be
Do you have
there.
confirmation?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. Kaishi's gonna be there. I believe Aya and Wonder Melodies will be there. I have a list of all the players somewhere who's going. I think Azure is gonna be going. I want to see.
Nice.
We'll see. We'll see. I think Teji's gonna be going. Yeah.
And also the unlimited. We're gonna have an unlimited tournament, right?
Oh yes. On this, what is it? This weekend actually, on Sunday.
Sunday, right?
This Sunday we're gonna be hosting an event.
6 p.m. I believe.
6 p.m. I'll post a link
Right.
to that.
I might be wrong. Yeah.
I think we have that down for 6 p.m. I'll post a link to that in the description. I'll post a link to that in the Twitch in a couple minutes. I think that's everything. Shout out to all of our viewers. Shout out to Twitch chat, and shout out for Akamaru for being the supervillain today.
Hi, matey. With this, I'll take my loot and I'll be living.
You know what? Shout out to Akamaru for getting supervillains and pirates confused. Have a good one, everyone.